On the night of August the 15th of 2016, Florida couple John Stevens III and Michelle Mishkon were sitting in the garage of their Tequesta home with the door open when they were suddenly attacked by a passerby. 19-year-old Florida State University student Austin Haruf stabbed the victims repeatedly with tools he found in the garage, as well as a pocket knife. A neighbor subsequently came over to help the couple but was also injured by the young man. When authorities arrived at the scene, they found Haruf on top of Stevens attempting to bite chunks out of his face and abdomen. An officer deployed his taser on the suspect, which did little to subdue him. It ultimately took 2 deputies using every bit of strength they had to wrestle Haruf into custody. Law enforcement's immediate theory was that the unhinged college student had taken some sort of street drug, such as flakka, but that was refuted when his toxicology report came back clean. Investigators learned that on the night of the incident, Haruf had been eating dinner at a restaurant with his father when he suddenly got up and left. He wandered into the street and proceeded to walk more than 3 miles before eventually happening upon the victims in their garage and launching his unprovoked attack. The young man's parents told the police he'd been acting strangely in the weeks leading up to his outburst, and also informed them that mental illness, including schizophrenia, ran in the family. During the case's court proceedings in November of 2022, a judge accepted Haruf's plea of not guilty by reason of insanity to 2 counts of first-degree murder. He was subsequently moved to a mental health facility until medical professionals determined he is not a risk to society. Number 5. Jonathan Wesley Harris. In the early hours of August 22nd of 2018, former Playboy model Christina Carling Craft met a man named Jonathan Wesley Harris, who'd agreed to sell her an ounce of cocaine for $1,200 in downtown Philadelphia. When the pair got to the 36-year-old woman's Ardmore apartment, they reportedly drank several bottles of wine and had consensual intercourse. Then, Harris flew into a rage when Carling Craft refused to pay for the illegal substances he'd given her, leading to a violent altercation. The woman allegedly struck Harris over the head with a glass bottle, to which he retaliated by repeatedly slapping and punching her. When the model tried to run away, he tied her up on the bed. She subsequently asked if she could call her dad, but instead used the phone to dial 911, further angering Harris. While describing the incident to law enforcement, the man admitted to choking Carling Craft until she stopped screaming, saying, "I panicked. I was scared. I didn't know what to do." Although he claimed to have believed the woman to still be alive, Harris fled out the apartment's back door and jumped from the balcony as she lay unresponsive in her bed. When emergency crews were sent to the scene, Carling Craft was pronounced dead, having sustained several broken bones in her face as well as significant bruising. A medical examiner determined her official cause of death to have been strangulation and detected no illegal substances in her system. Harris was arrested and charged with a number of offenses, including murder, robbery, and theft. In court, the man's defense team conceded that the inculpatory evidence pointing to his involvement in the killing was undeniable. They did, however, attempt to convey Harris's impaired mental state, claiming he'd been out of his mind on ketamine at the time of the deadly altercation, which had caused him to snap. In the end, Harris was found guilty on all charges. For what prosecutors called a fit of demonic torture, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Number 4. Jason Jablonski. The police in Virginia Beach were called to the 1200 block of Edenham Court near the Chesapeake City line for a report of a violent altercation on the morning of March the 11th of 2022. Law enforcement found the body of 45-year-old Herbert Bryant inside. A preliminary investigation led detectives to ID a Navy sailor named Jason Jablonski as their first suspect. According to Navy records, 41-year-old Jablonski was a gunner's mate first class, stationed at Naval Station Norfolk at the time of the incident. Investigators determined that the sailor had gotten into a heated argument with Bryant that eventually morphed into a physical fight, although the nature of their disagreement wasn't immediately made clear. Jablonski was said to have been on a crack bender at the time, which contributed to his erratic and violent behavior. At some point during the fight, the suspect allegedly struck Bryant in the face with a dumbbell, which he then pressed down on the victim's neck until he stopped moving. Jablonski was arrested on a charge of second-degree murder, while the police also identified an accomplice named Heather Totti, aged 35. The latter was charged with accessory to murder after the fact, having witnessed the deadly altercation, after which she allegedly helped move the victim's body and clean up the crime scene. Both suspects were denied bond after being taken into custody. In October of 2022, Jablonski's legal team proposed a guilty plea of voluntary manslaughter, but the judge ruled that the plea wouldn't be accepted or denied until January of 2023. Number 3. Coweta County car crash. In the early morning hours of June the 30th of 2022, an errant vehicle traveling at speeds far exceeding the posted limit careened off the road and crashed into a house, killing a woman inside. The incident occurred on Johnson Road in Senoia, Georgia, where Annette Rush lived and was an active member of the community, especially at her local church. On the morning in question, a Coweta County Sheriff's deputy attempted to pull over a car that failed to dim its lights. The traffic stop was initiated at about 2:30 a.m. on Gordon Road in Senoia. Rather than cooperate with law enforcement, however, the motorist sped off, reportedly reaching 130 miles per hour during the ensuing pursuit. The deputy eventually lost track of the car before encountering a commotion on the 900 block of Johnson Road. The driver, who'd fled the traffic stop, had veered off course after reaching a curve in the road. The vehicle's wayward trajectory ultimately landed it in the path leading directly to Annette Rush's home. The car smashed through the front porch and knocked out the main electrical breaker before barreling into one of the duplex's bedrooms where Rush was sleeping. Although the woman was left critically injured after being trapped beneath rubble, her family initially believed she was going to be okay, as she reportedly gave them a thumbs up while being placed in an ambulance. From there, she was taken to the hospital for treatment, but her condition only worsened. Eventually, doctors had no choice but to cease their efforts and pronounce her dead. The victim's husband had been on the couch at the time of the accident and was left unharmed. The couple's 28-year-old son, Leonard, was hospitalized with a shoulder injury but ultimately made it out with his life. The driver responsible for Rush's death was described as a boy not yet of legal driving age. He was taken into custody and held at a youth detention center pending his case's legal proceedings. Number 2. Henry Hammond. In May of 2019, Australian woman Courtney Heron was brutally beaten to death with a tree branch by a homeless man in the throes of a schizophrenic relapse. The 25-year-old's body was found hidden beneath branches in Melbourne's Royal Park. A witness who was sleeping in the park at the time of the fatal altercation reported hearing Heron say, "Are you going to kill me?" as she and Henry Hammond were walking nearby. The man subsequently picked up a tree branch and started bashing her over the head with it. He was so intense he was grunting. It went on for 50 minutes, said the eyewitness, who testified in court during the case's ensuing trial. After the victim was dead, Hammond bound her legs together and attempted to hide the body before making off with her phone and wallet. Hours earlier, after they just met, Heron had reportedly treated Hammond to a meal before the pair partook of crystal meth together and went for a walk in the park. When law enforcement caught up with the suspect the following day, he claimed to have attacked Heron because he recognized her from a past life and that she'd buried his wife alive. His delusional thinking reportedly stemmed from his relapsing schizophrenia, which he'd been suffering from since 2017. In March of 2021, Victoria's Supreme Court spared Hammond any prison time for Heron's slaying. He was instead committed to a high-security mental health clinic in Fairfield for 25 years, having been found not guilty of murder due to mental impairment. Number 1. Hemi Neumann. Georgia man Rusty Snyderman was gunned down after dropping his son off at a Dunwoody daycare on November the 18th of 2010. A few months later, investigators identified a man by the name of Hemi Neumann, who supervised Snyderman's wife at GE Energy as a suspect. In January of 2011, Neumann was taken into custody on suspicion of committing the murder, allegedly because he and the victim's wife, Andrea, were having an affair. During the ensuing legal proceedings, Neumann maintained that he was mentally unstable and that it was his decline in mental health that led to him carrying out the deadly shooting. In March of 2012, the jury accepted this argument, ruling that he was guilty but mentally ill. He was subsequently given a life sentence. 5 months later, Andrea Snyderman was issued a criminal indictment alleging her involvement in her husband's killing. Among the charges levied against the woman were malice murder, attempted murder, racketeering, and insurance fraud. The murder charge was eventually dismissed, but in August of 2013, Andrea was convicted of 9 felony counts and was consequently sentenced to 5 years in prison. 2 years later, Neumann's murder conviction was reversed by Georgia Supreme Court, which cited a violation of attorney-client privilege in support of its decision. The man was awarded a new trial, which in August of 2016 concluded with him being found guilty and once again receiving a life prison sentence. Although Neumann subsequently sought a third trial, the Supreme Court unanimously upheld his second conviction in March of 2021. Thanks for watching. Would you rather be subject to random 1-minute dizzy spells that cause you to lose all control of your body, or have to run 3 miles before each and every meal? Let us know in the comments section below.